Welcome to the First Time Facilitator podcast. Whether you're a first-time facilitator or a seasoned pro, listen in for tips and tricks to make a bigger impact at the next workshop you deliver. And now, your host. She doesn't mind the occasional country music song, Hello Luke Combs, Leanne Hughes.
G'day everyone and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Leanne Hughes, and I'm here to help you create unpredictable workshop experiences that predictably work. I've got to say, today's episode is the episode that I wish was out when I dropped out of corporate back in February 2019. Wow, just over a year and a bit ago. Before dropping out of corporate, I listened to all of the business and all the marketing and all of the entrepreneurial podcasts, but there was nothing really specific for me in terms of business owners that ran facilitation, learning and development, training or consulting companies. So I thought, why not scratch my own itch and why not help people that were, I guess, in a similar position to what I was in a year and a bit ago by asking and putting the word out there to my mentors, my favorite authors, previous guests, just awesome facilitation business owners, and asking them what was one thing that they wish they knew when they started their facilitation business. So you are in for an absolute treat today. We have 22 facilitators from all around the world sharing their tips. I kind of wish we had 23, but I'm going to make myself the 23rd person. I'm really getting into that new Netflix doco called The Last Dance, which is on the Chicago Bulls. And I was always a big Michael Jordan fan growing up. Hey, who wasn't? The guy is a legend. Oh, and how this is relevant is because Michael Jordan's jersey number was number 23. Okay, this podcast is not about Michael Jordan, it's about facilitation. So in this episode, what I'm going to do is share these audio snippets from the 22 other facilitators, and I'll be acting a bit like a TV news anchor between stories, so segueing between points, probably adding a bit on like a facilitator would. I'll probably also pick up the trainer hat and add some practicalities onto what has been said before. I'll tell you what, this episode has been an absolute treat to put together just to reconnect with a lot of these facilitators, some people that have been previous guests, and it's great to hear some new voices as well and just get the variety of lessons learnt. I always say that running a podcast is actually quite selfish because I get to learn from the best people in the world and just share that with all of you. And this has certainly been a great professional development experience for me. There's some awesome books that are recommended and all of that is in the show notes for this one over at firsttimefacilitator.com/podcast. If you like these tips and you'd like the last 7 episodes, so for the last 7 days, I have been releasing 1 tip a day, sort of sharing my response to the same question, what I wish I knew when I started my facilitation business. So you can listen to those just in your podcast player of choice. They're all bonus episodes. And if you are only into this show because you want facilitation tips, don't worry, we'll go back to regular scheduling next week. Also, quick note that doors close for being a founding member of my new private community, which is called Show Up. Show Up is a community for consultants, facilitators and trainers who want to score amazing opportunities but don't know how to market themselves with ease yet. We have an amazing group of people in the founding group cohort. And doors will close tomorrow, Tuesday, the 12th of May. So hop on over to leannehughes.com/invitation to find out more and to show up, and we'll see you on the other side. I really hope you enjoy this conversation. Again, it's been delightful for me to piece this all together for you. Let me know your thoughts anytime. Shoot me a tweet at Leanne Hughes, or again, all the contact details are in the show notes. Okay, let's hear these wonderful tips from these wonderful humans.
It's Annette Coy
and Cameron Fee from Cortex Group. We wish we knew when we started our business, enjoy the small wins. You see, we spend a lot of time chasing the big wins, yet every day we have these small wins.
And looking back, it was really the small wins that gave us the biggest momentum and the biggest sense of progress. So then we would say plan the small wins every day.
So great to hear from you, Cameron and Annette, who are absolute legends. Got a lot of love for them. They're also Brisbane-based and are super creative in everything that they do. They make learning amazing, and I've definitely had these two as role models for part of my facilitation career. So great to hear from you guys, and so true about celebrating the small things. Think about it, if you were only to celebrate the big things, and sometimes I got some amazing opportunities and I didn't even take the time to celebrate because I was like, okay, how am I going to make it work? So just taking that time out to celebrate in any way that you like Sarah McVanel, who also features on this podcast later on, she shared a story of someone that just uses a cowbell. And when something cool happens in their day, they just ring this cowbell to signify that. So what could be your version of a cowbell to recognise a small win that you've got? Now, my next audio is from Jane Anderson, who appeared on episode 21 of the show, talking a lot about personal branding and creating content to build your business. She's done some amazing work during COVID in terms of the way that she's pivoted some of her programs and just gone big. So check her stuff out. Let's hear from you, Jane.
Hey Leanne, thanks for the opportunity to be involved in your snippets. The thing that I wish I had learnt or had known when starting my practice was to remember that it is your practice. It is your business. I think it's really easy, and at least I did, to get caught up in or fall into the challenge of comparisonitis, where feeling like, I'm not moving quick enough, or I'm not moving fast enough, or I'm not as good as this person, and it's really easy, I think, to go into beating yourself up and falling into this situation where you really compare yourself and your progress to where others are at. And the problem with that is that, it doesn't help with your self-talk, it doesn't help with your mindset, and the reality is that you're only seeing that other person's practice or business at a stage at one of the chapters in their book. So it can look like that they've started at the same time as you, but they actually didn't. They've probably been doing their business or building their business for 10 years. So, it's your own race. Stop worrying about everybody else and just play it your way. Thanks, Leanne.
How often do we do this? We hop onto social media or LinkedIn and we see all the amazing things that other people are doing and instantly compare that to where we are in that moment. It's really difficult to avoid that. One thing that I found really helpful is just recognizing that social media really is everybody else's highlights reel. And even for myself, I don't pop up all the day-to-day stuff. I am a little bit more open on the podcast in long form media. But when I do post up short snippets or photos, it's always of something really cool that's happening, something that I really want to share with others. And if we're all doing that, then we're all sort of setting ourselves up. Now, the other thing I want to point out about Jane's comment is that it is our business. And so often I'm consuming a lot of content, I'm reading a lot. So I'm conditioned to think this is the way that you should market or this is the way that you should send quotes out. But it is your business. So you get to decide whether you accept that advice or whether you think, no, that won't work in this situation. It's completely up to you. And I find that really refreshing, but also quite scary at the same time. So many decisions. Okay, who's next?
I'm Tom Scantlebury from Sky Blue Customer Experience Services. So when I founded my business 4 years ago, the one thing I would have liked to have known then is how important the mindset shift is from somebody who owns their own business to somebody who has been an employee. So those early days, it's really exciting, a lot of adrenaline, but you are carrying that whole business and all of its future in your head, on your shoulders, 24/7. So that can lead to a fair bit of anxiety and burnout, and it certainly doesn't feel like you're living the dream when you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about your business. So what I've learned over time is that it's really important to have some rituals in place to distinguish between business and work time and the other parts of your life. So I now have quite a few little things in place which make sure that I don't start work until I'm meant to start work, and I celebrate the achievements of the day and do a few things before I kind of step into the personal compartment of my life. So I think it's important to compartmentalize and really prepare and think about what the impacts on your whole life is when you set out to start a business. So I would not have it any other way. Some people who have had the chance to run businesses and have not made it really work say it's their worst nightmare. Other people think that it's a dream life, and I think the reality can be either. But I definitely would not have it any other way.
Yeah, Tom, you're right. I wouldn't have it any other way either. And even times like now, during COVID, where what I think it does is it really exacerbates how people operate and feel and certain characteristics, and absolutely is a roller coaster, like even through a day, even over an hour. And it's amazing how quickly your emotions can turn when you get an amazing email out of the blue with an amazing opportunity. And then through the gaps of where you think, will any work ever come my way? And we can absolutely be our toughest critic. So one thing that I found that helps when it comes to getting some of these irrational thoughts out, like I'll never get work again, that is not true. It's not true. It's actually getting out of my own head and putting things down on paper and going, what is the worst case scenario? What would I do in the situation? And then getting into exciting dreamlike mode and go, what would the best situation look like? What would out of control, hitting it out of the ballpark, super excited, what would that look like, and mapping it out as well. There's just something cathartic about writing it down. All right, who's up next?
My name is Nadja Petranovskaja from More Shiny Eyes. I'm creator of Wonder Cards, and when I started my facilitation business in 1997, I wish I knew how important it is not to take myself so seriously.
I love this. Nadja and I hopped on a call recently just to catch up. She's over in Germany, and she told me about a book that she was reading, and it was called Do Nothing. The tagline is How to Break Away from Overworking, Overdoing and Underliving, and it's by Celeste Headley. So I thought I'd also add that to Nadja's wonderful comment about not taking ourselves too seriously, which, linking into what Tom has just said, it's hard to do when we're in our head 24/7, like putting the weight of the business on our shoulders. It actually is helpful to think, hey, like we chose to do this. We chose to become our own bosses because we wanted to design our lives. So I love Nadja's refreshing approach to all of this. And yeah, let's just enjoy ourselves. That's why we're here, right?
Hi, Chris Huet from Understood. When I started my communications coaching business, I wished that I was prepared for the roller coaster ride I had signed up for, and knew that even though there'll be down days when it looks like you're about to run out of money, they're more than made up for by the good days when people are approaching you and asking you to do new things. And that if you just keep doing the right work, satisfying your customers and reaching out to new ones, then on the whole, it's going to be an upward ride. And to take those down days with the up days and be prepared for them. I wish I knew that.
Thank you, Chris. And I agree, that's part of the joy. And Jenny Blake, who's also featured on this episode, talks about serendipity popcorn, where you wake up one morning and then an exciting opportunity is just in your email. And you didn't hustle for it, it's just arrived. And that, I think, is what I definitely live for as part of this caper of being a business owner, are those amazing surprise opportunities. And it definitely outweighs any of those times, those sluggish times where you think, things are just slowing down. And then you get something like that, which just ignites that spark and you remember why you decided to do it. Thanks, Chris.
I'm Murray Guest from Inspire My Business. When I started my facilitation business 5 years ago, I wish I'd known how important mindset and our attitudes are for our business success. Over the years, I've invested in my money mindset and my attitudes, and that's certainly driven my business success.
Cheers, Muzz. Great to have you back on the show. I think this is your fourth appearance on this podcast. And I think Murray's point echoes what all the previous audio notes have really been about, which is mindset. And it's why I stacked it up at the front of this episode, because it is so important. In the past, I was really practical. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about the mindset. Just tell me what I need to do and I'll do those steps. But I've realized that mindset is actually everything. It impacts the way that you price yourself. It impacts the way that you market yourself. It impacts the way that you live every day. And the people sense that. People sense that mindset and energy off you. And Murray's note also leads us nicely into talking a bit about money. That's what business is about, right? Let's talk more about money.
Hi, this is Kirsty Lewis from the School of Facilitation. When I started SOF, I really wish I'd known how to set up my finances so that I had a really clear picture of what money was available to me to invest in the business, to pay myself, and also to reward myself with the profit that I was making. And I have achieved that now because I've read a brilliant book called Profit First. Go read it.
Another upvote for Profit First. Brilliant book. Thanks for sharing, Kirsty. And congratulations on your recent School of Facilitation global gathering tour. You rocked it, and it was fun to be your tech DJ.
Hi, I'm Mel Kettle, communications strategist and podcast host of This Connected Life. When I started consulting about 14 years ago, I really wish I'd known a lot more about managing cash flow and the importance of knowing my numbers in terms of sales, my bank account, and especially how much I needed to keep aside to pay the tax bill. I also wish I'd sought advice from an accountant who understood small business.
Great to hear from you, Mel. Mel was on episode 68. We're talking about really getting prepared before a workshop and popping your phone into flight mode so you don't get distracted by news that you don't want just as you're about to start delivering a workshop. I agree. And I've got a small business accountant in Brisbane who I kind of feel sorry for. I don't know if she's ever going to find me as a client, but I have a lot of different questions. I also work in multi-currencies. And one thing I'm trying to do this year is to have like Finance Friday, where I put an hour aside just to reconcile and just go into the books and check that pipeline, look at outstanding invoices. It's the part of the job that I don't love, and I do have an accountant to support me. But like Mel said, it's super important to know what your numbers are and where you need them to be.
Hey, it's Michael Bungay Stanier here of MBS.works. I'm also the author of The Coaching Habit and The Advice Trap and some other books as well. So what do I wish I really knew, really understood when I started my business some 20 years ago? Well, I really wish I understood money, because you can be a great facilitator, you can be a great teacher, you can be a great writer, but unless you're comfortable in asking for what you're worth, you are always going to struggle. So you need to understand marketing, you need to understand sales, but you have to understand how to price yourself. And the breakthrough for me was reading a book by Alan Weiss, W-E-I-S-S, called $1 Million Consulting. And he was the first person who explained to me the concept of value pricing rather than this is my cost per hour or per half day or per gig. It's about value pricing. Understand that and you'll never go hungry again.
That's right. None of us wants to go hungry doing what we love. So thank you, Michael, for your tip. And I've got to say the best part about having a podcast is getting to connect with people whose work you've admired for some time. And I interviewed Michael back in episode 106 of the podcast, if you'd like to listen to that. And the other thing about what he said is what I found really surprising becoming a solopreneur is I'd have a list of things to do in a day. It would be, post on social media, record a podcast, do a quote as an example. And I'd always seem to delay doing the quote. Now, that's crazy in theory because I should be getting the quote back because that's what business is all about. But I found that I was procrastinating on it an awful lot. When I really dug down into it, it was because I was scared. I was scared of asking for what I thought I was worth. And that really links into what Murray said in this podcast as well about having a strong money mindset, being aware of what you're worth and the value that you can offer clients and communicating that in a way that you're comfortable with. It's a huge thing. So I am grabbing that book. Thanks for the tip.
Hello, my name is Jason Knight and I run a business called Moved by Design. What I'd wished I'd known about 15 years ago with my consultancy, design consultancy, would have been two things. One is about how to do value-based pricing rather than hourly, and the idea that feeling, worthy at the end of a design project. So and that book has been Win Without Pitching by Blair Enns. The other would have been markups and changes on client work, and that would have been file stage or markup. So both of them are cloud-based programs where clients can put annotations and comments on the actual designs, and that took a lot of frustration away from the design process. Thanks, Leanne.
Thanks, Jason. Jason's company is a design company, but they specialize in creating engaging learning materials. So I love that he's picked us as his niche to work with. And again, another vote for value-based pricing, but also talking a bit about scope creep as well and how often do we design things. Even if you work internally, you might be working on a program that just keeps getting pushed and delayed because of constant requirement updates. So helpful that you shared a tool where we can sort of track that as well, Jason. So thank you for that tip. Now on the topic of value-based pricing, well, how do you make yourself more valuable? Let's find out.
Hello, I'm Ingrid Thompson and my business is called Healthy Numbers because numbers matter in business. I host a popular podcast called So You Want to Start a Business, where I interview entrepreneurs to tell their business startup story. And I've written a book with the same name, So You Want to Start a Business. The one thing that I wish I knew when I started my consulting, coaching, mentoring business was to choose a niche, one key area of speciality as a focus for what I offer to the world. One day, 3 of my biggest fans said to me separately, "Ingrid, we just don't understand what you do and who you work with. We cannot support you or help you or refer for you. And of course we'd love to." This was such a wake-up call for me. Starting out, I know this is challenging, and for various reasons. We can do more than just what we say, and we want to do more than just whatever this focus is. And this makes for a fuzzy message. So I picked a lane, and I am so grateful I did, because now I support health and wellbeing professionals who are highly skilled at what they do with their clients. I help them create, build and grow their practices, their studios, their businesses, so they can do more of what they love doing.
Ingrid, I feel like you're talking directly to me. And when you mention about picking a niche, picking a topic, picking an audience, what is the one problem that you solve? Something that I'm still working with, because I sort of do a couple of things. I run this podcast where I help you get better at running engaging workshops, but I also do deliver the workshops for corporates where I'm running leadership and team development training. So I feel like with this community show up, I'm actually finally bringing my 2 loves together, facilitation and marketing. And I feel like that's the sweet spot for me in this moment of time. It's not to say that things won't evolve over time. And if you look at every other thought leader and author, they always sort of pivot their offering as well. But what I think is true in what Ingrid says is that it's important to just pick something and run with it and then see where that evolves.
My name is Sarah McVanel, and I am a recognition expert, a professional speaker, trainer, and coach from Ontario, Canada. Most of what I do is speaking. And so I guess what I wish I had known when I first started my business was that there was an association for that, Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, because the folks that I have met in that community have been instrumental in referrals, support, and helping me grow my business. Related to that as well is being an expert. It's a lot easier for people to refer you and for you to be able to charge what you're worth when you claim your space. And frankly, it's just less exhausting by not having to keep up on so much research. The technology tip I'd share is there's a really cool CRM, mailing list, LMS system, etc. called Kartra. And that's what I would pick if I had to do it all over again.
So great to hear you, Sarah. Sarah's been on a couple of previous episodes of the show. We first met when I interviewed her, and then I loved the conversation so much. I got her as my business coach for the first 12 months of solopreneurship, just to have that person that I could bounce ideas off, share the small wins, the big wins, the challenges, bounce ideas off, talk about tech tools, because I think that's one thing you miss when you live corporate life is being surrounded by a team and having just informal coffee chats where you actually get the best ideas. So it was really nice having that formalized with Sarah. And I think we both love the marketing side of things, which just made every session really enjoyable, bouncing those ideas back and forth. So let's talk more about marketing and content.
This is Rachel Ben-Hamu. I'm the Chief Facilitator at People Storming. I wish I'd known that it was okay to be opinionated. When I first started out making training and articles, I knew I had to create content that was informative and educational and useful. But I was always nervous to give my opinion because I thought, maybe this will alienate some of my potential clients. Over time, I realised it's exactly my opinion and my experience that clients pay me for. I finally internalised that not everyone will agree with me and not everything I say will resonate with everyone. But if I can reach one person and I can connect with them deeply, then I've done something meaningful. And that's what I wish I'd known from the start.
Oh yeah, Rachel, that's awesome. Let me give you a virtual high five. I think I went a rant on this back in tip 5 of 7 when I was talking about LinkedIn and how to see everything on there. Okay, I'm generalizing, but a lot of the content in there is very vanilla and people do seem a bit scared about showing up and bringing their best selves or full selves to the platform and actually having an opinion. So I really echo you on that. And I think that's probably a great way to differentiate, not to be polarizing for the sake of being polarizing, but just to actually say, look, this is what I stand for. Now, when you do that, you're going to attract the right clients. You don't want to be for everybody, because if you are for everybody, you are for nobody, right? And thank you, Rachel, for sharing your journey with stepping up from trying to please everyone to what you do now. Keep bringing out your awesome content.
Hi, I'm Bill Jarrard from MindWorks International. When we started MindWorks back in about 1999, one of the things I wish I had known more about was the balance between marketing and actual work. So often you get busy and you forget about the marketing aspects, and you tend to have a bit of a roller coaster ride in the way in which the business runs. So I wish I'd spent more time thinking about that and managing the process overall.
Now, Bill and I met through the Asia Pacific Institute of Learning and Performance. We're both regional advocate team members. I'm from Queensland and Bill's down in Victoria. Really appreciate you sharing that tip, Bill. When we do 360 debriefing with managers and organisations, we often talk about working in the business, working on the business. And that's something that we also have to be extremely mindful of, is when we're supporting our clients, which is great, we're delivering the work, but we also equally need to be spending time on the business and planning ahead, and marketing is part of that. Bill, your audio note reminded me of the words of Jim Rohn. I love Jim Rohn, one of my favourite. I can watch his old sort of 1980s speeches. They just really make a lot of sense. One of Jim's quotes is, "Hold on through the long winters, leverage opportunities of spring, nourish and protect your work through summer, and reap the harvest in fall." And I think when we are working, it's the summer months. We're busy, we're doing all the work, but he talks about nourishing and protecting it. So while you're delivering it, you've still got to be consistent in the way that you're putting out content and everything else. And that's the hard thing, is actually managing both of those processes. And I do find that systems and support help really well in that regard.
Hi, my name is Petra, Zink, and I'm the founder of Impact and the 360 Talent Co. The one thing that I wish I had known before I started my first coaching business, Impact, was that simply building a product and then put it out there is the wrong way to go. It's about validating the idea and pre-sell the product before you put all your resources, time and energy in it. So the one thing that I would give you as an advice would be to slow things down before you can speed things up. Good luck with everything.
Thanks for the well wishes, Petra. I'm sure the listeners appreciate that. Petra is also in Brisbane and we regularly connect to talk about business. I think we're both obsessed with it. We love it. It's our hobby. But let's talk about Petra's point. Her point is that we need to actually get validation and find that people are curious enough for the product before we even put it out. It's very easy to fall into the trap of, I've got a great idea. I know that people will love it. And now I'm going to spend months and months curating this amazing thing. And then you put it out to the market and there are crickets. So I've taken the approach a lot, like with my first time facilitator bootcamp. I just had a vision of what it was. With Show Up, it is a vision. Then I'm inviting people to join that vision. I'm surveying them, finding out what they want, and then creating something for them. Now, this is something very similar to, it's called the Rapid Course Prototyping Method, which was developed by, or maybe not developed, but promoted a lot by my next contributor, who is my biggest friend-tor in the world, one of my favorite authors. Let's hear from her now.
Hello, Leanne listeners. Isn't she the best? This is Jenny Blake, host of the Pivot podcast and author of Pivot. The only move that matters is your next one. I've been self-employed running a speaking, coaching, and consulting business for 9+ years now. And the one thing I wish I had started on the consulting side was licensing sooner than I did. In the beginning, I was designing these bespoke trainings for different companies. I was so grateful to have a client, any client, especially big, fancy brands and companies, that I would work with them and design this most customized, bespoke solution, only to realize that the more clients I got, the more work I was going to be creating for myself. Instead, as I started to transition toward licensing, I realized that if I came up with a really solid training with a beautiful presentation, a matching workbook, then I could offer that to companies on a licensing basis, and it's even easier for them. It's even more turnkey. You can see examples of this at pivotmethod.com/companies and of the workbook at pivotmethod.com/workbook. workbook in case you want to get ideas for how you might apply this or start building this, even if you have a several-year vision in mind for how it unfolds, because I found it really to be a game changer. The other thing I'll say is that bespoke isn't bad. Just make sure that you maintain the IP and that every time somebody hires you, let's say it's to do a video series, that you own the rights to distribute, edit, and use that in the future as well. And that way, every time you do custom work for a client, it's a win-win. They get the content, they get to distribute it, and you get to keep leveraging that moving forward in your business as well. Thank you so much for listening, and big thanks to Leanne for all your awesome podcasting.
Oh my gosh, yes. How often are we just over the moon that we've scored a new client and that we want to do everything great for them so we can retain them? And so the self-talk that's happening here is, well, to make them happier, I need to work harder. And that is absolutely not the case if you do licensing the way that Jenny's done it. So I definitely recommend looking at her resources that she's outlined there. Pop a link to those in the show notes. And Jenny Blake has been the number one source of inspiration for me and has helped me along this path of becoming a solopreneur. So I just wanted to give that love right back to you, JB. You're the best. And someone else who has also influenced my facilitation career, someone that I highly respect in this field, is coming up right now.
Hi, I'm Nikki McMurray from Corporate Learning Partners. When I started my facilitation business 14 years ago, I wish I knew how important it was to invest in myself, in my own professional development, whether it be marketing or accounting, or even sitting in on another professional facilitator, chewing the fat, getting ideas, being inspired, and also remembering what it's like to be a participant on the other side. The other thing I'd like to comment on is also connecting with other professional facilitators who've been through the journey that you're embarking on. In those days, there wasn't any first-time facilitator podcasts or the Flipchart Facebook or even LinkedIn. So I wish you all the very best in your journey. Take care.
Nikki was a guest on episode 3 of this podcast. Right at the beginning, I had to get her on the show because I so admire the work that she does. Nikki was our corporate facilitator for the company that I worked for, and she really gave me legs up in terms of co-facilitating, giving me feedback, but also the way that she runs her business and how amazing that she is with clients. I see the way that she interacts with her clients because I was on that end, right? And she is awesome. She's funny. She connects well. She drives the relationship. She gets in touch. She's responsive. All of those great things. So we can learn a lot about running a great business from people that we work with that do it well as well. It's like taking a meta moment when you've enjoyed an experience interacting with a company. Think about what are they doing well and how can I bring that into my business?
Hey there, it's Ange here from Angela Henderson Consulting, where I'm a business consultant and coach, international speaker, and podcaster of the podcast, The Business and Life Conversations podcast. And I've personally helped thousands of amazing women business owners get all the pieces in place to have consistent 5-figure months and then on to 6-figure years without burning out in the process. Now, I'm currently in my role of a business consultant at Angela Henderson Consulting, but I've also ran one of Australia's leading toy stores for the last decade. So when I think back to first starting out in business, I wish I knew how important it was to pay to play. That's right, pay to play. Now, what I mean by that is investing in yourself and learning from people who already have the skills and tools you need to move your business forward. But also, when you pay to play, you're not only getting the strategy you need to move your business forward, but you're also being held accountable. But even more than that, you get access to that individual's person's network, their community. And when you have community, you have connections. When you have connections, you have conversations. And when you have conversations, you have conversions. So my advice to you out there is pay to play in your business. Wishing you all a fantastic day, no matter where you are listening to this amazing podcast of Leanne's. And if I can ever help in any way, make sure you head to angelahenderson.com.au.
Great to hear from you, Ange. And I love that phrase, pay to play. It's really hard when you're a business owner because of all the information out there, you could potentially learn every aspect of your business, the finance, the marketing, the consulting, the website design, the Facebook ads, Canva, all of that. You can learn it all, but do you have the time to do that? So a couple of things when it comes to pay to play. One is you could potentially just outsource that that element of your business somewhere else. The other thing that you can do is, like Ange said, find the right people that you connect with that have similar values to you and learn from them. It's always a juggle between time and money. And I honestly think time is more important. So if you can have that money to invest in something that will accelerate your development, absolutely go for it. It's the reason why I got a business coach straight out from quitting my corporate job. It's why I'm a member of Jenny Blake's Momentum community. It's why I'm a membership of Sean D'Souza's 5000 BC marketing community. It's because I want to learn from the best. I want a community of people that support that. And I value my time enough that I'm willing to invest in people or communities that I believe can accelerate it. Now, speaking of Jenny Blake's community momentum, here's another Momo member sharing their tip with you now.
I'm Dr. Michael J. Conseulos, the principal at MJC Solutions. And you can find me at mjc.solutions. First of all, thank you, Leanne, for such an awesome question. So hard to narrow down to just the one thing, since I've learned so much in the past year. It's also a great chance, I think, to reflect. And my instinct was to find the one thing that may be a surprise to me and helpful to your audience. So here it goes. You don't have to do it all yourself. As I started my journey, I put a lot of pressure on myself to do everything and get everything just right. And then I realized I had so many people around me that could be helpful in so many different ways. They were able to help me with my writing, my podcasting, my website. I didn't know really what SEO was. In theory, I knew what it was. So I reached out to a friend, Jeff, who I cycle with, and he does this for a living. And I just tapped into his knowledge, and we went on a bike ride, and he just did a great download on my brain, and we went back to my house, and I fixed my website, and it was great. So it was fun, it was exciting, and at the end, I think it was better that I didn't do this all by myself. So once again, my one bit of advice to you and your audience has been, you don't have to do it all yourself. Thank you again for the great opportunity to talk to everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Michael, for contributing to this. And great hearing your voice on my podcast. I've been listening to you and Jenny Blake riff on all things pandemic on the Pivot podcast. So I had to bring you onto this show as well, because you've been in business for about the same time that I've been in business too. And yeah, very often we can be up against brick walls and we're thinking, how do we get through this? And we're stuck in our own head. So a few things that I do, same as you, MJC, is I'll reach out to a few friend tours, a few people that are in business as well. And it doesn't have to be like an official ask. It could be something, just a quick sentence over a DM, or when we next catch up for a Zoom call, I'll add the question in and get their thoughts. I will search for podcast episodes about the topic to listen in on that. But I also find Facebook groups and community groups super helpful for that. And my free Facebook group called The Flip Chart has been amazing. So when people get stuck when thinking of activities, they'll usually hop onto the Flip Chart and go, hey, has anyone done this? And the responses are just unbelievable. So there is real value in community and for reaching out and being humble enough sometimes to ask for help. Let's talk about collaborating even more.
Hi, my name is Kirsty Birch from Starlingbrook Leadership Consulting. And when I started my facilitation business, I wish I knew how important it was to collaborate with other people. See, I had this thought I could go and do it alone and needed to prove to myself that I could build this business. And what I realized is I really needed the help of others. And so collaboration is absolutely key.
Hell yes. A lot of my favorite opportunities have been as a result of a partnership or a collaboration where I've either been co-facilitating or subcontracting. Murray Guest, when we talk on the phone, he always talks about collaborators, not competitors. I even had someone ask me the other day, they asked, hey, do you feel like when you get your guests on that you're competing with them? And I thought, absolutely not. Like, the reason I'm getting on the show is because I want to find out more about them and build a relationship with them, become mates, share ideas, and you don't know where it's going to end up. So it's not about being transactional either and going, oh yeah, I want this person on my show because they can do something for me. It's more about, I want to connect with this person because we're both driven by the same thing. We both love the same thing. We both love facilitating workshops. And actually that's how I know Christine, is because we collaborated on a webinar a couple of months ago. Christine and Greg, they actually turned their week-long residency leadership program into a really engaging online experience with people from dialing in at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So Christine absolutely lives it. And hey, we're facilitators. Like, our role is to get people collaborating too. So why not have this as part of your business philosophy as well? One of my other collaborators, so I like to call my facilitation twin, although we're looking at expanding our family, is Myriam. Let's hear from her now.
My name is Myriam Hadnes, and I'm the host of the Workshops Work podcast. Looking back to when I started my facilitation business, I wish I knew how my own energy impacts the group. My impatience or even my judgment had an effect on the group dynamics. Today, instead, I can step back. I can be present and trust the process and trust the group. I don't need to fix them. They will find the solutions that will work for them.
Thank you, Myriam, for rounding out all of the guest notes from today. What Myriam's talking about is the craft of facilitation. And I think that it's a nice one to end with because that's what we're here for. We become facilitation business owners, trainers, consultants because we want to share our expertise and get groups working beautifully together. Now, that's only one part of it though. And I keep pulling out this Seth Godin quote that I popped in my Flipchart newsletter last week. And he says, if you are a consultant, the easy, hard part is, are you smart enough? So in terms of what Myriam's saying, it's, are you a good facilitator? Do you know how to work the group dynamics and be okay with not trying to fix them? Seth continues to say, the hard part is, do people trust you enough to pay you to give them good advice? And I think the biggest difference for me when leaving corporate was understanding that being a good facilitator was it's something that I had to take for granted. I had to be great at my craft. Move that aside and then focus on how do I communicate the value of what I actually do to attract more clients. So I'm sad to say that is the end of this episode where I've had 22 brilliant facilitation business owners share the one thing that they wish they knew. If you are listening to this and you have your own facilitation business, what else would you add to that list? I'd love you to let me know. Shoot me a tweet at Leanne Hughes, email me hello@leannehughes.com. If you are thinking about leaving your job, I'm so glad that you've listened and you got to the end of this podcast episode. I hope it's been really helpful for you. I definitely would have loved an episode like this. And I think even now, some of the tips that came through were really hard hitting. And I thought, oh yeah, I need to start doing that. I think I know it in theory, but doing it is a whole other thing, right? So as soon as I hop off the microphone, I'm booking in Finance Fridays in my calendar. If anyone else wants to join in and have some accountability on that, let's do it. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I hope it was really helpful for you. If you are thinking about growing and attracting great opportunities, you're an awesome facilitator, you're an awesome trainer, you're a brilliant consultant, but it's all about communicating that value. If you'd like to be part of a group that's working on that together, you can find out more about my new private community called Show Up over at leannehughes.com/invitation. And doors close on the 12th of May 2020. And I'd love you to be a founding member of that. All of the contact details, websites, LinkedIn URLs, Twitter handles of all the guests that featured on this podcast will be in the show notes. So if you found like a piece of advice that really hit home for you, please reach out and let that person know. I'm so grateful for the time and effort they put into sending me their voice notes. Have a wonderful week, facilitators. Chat to you next week.